if the hurdle rate for an investment is Bitcoin, and depending on what time frame you take of the last 5 years, roughly, you're looking at give or take 50% compound annual growth rate, which is a lot more than, the bond yield of a couple of percent, right? Or is a lot more than even a stock market might give you with an index fund. You touched on during the conversation, playing around with your gold and your silver and listening to Real Vision. You've obviously made other investments in your lifetime. How do you look at the idea of trying to outpace Bitcoin? And do you ever get involved in any other investing in the ecosystem or elsewhere to Bitcoin?
Very good question. Back in the day, mate, when I was first trying to figure all of this out, I don't know how far back some of your listeners will remember, but back in 2017, we had the whole ICO shitcoin phase.
Yeah.
I got caught up in that. That was a real shame.
It was hard not to.
I'd started investing in Bitcoin and was trying to do all, there was so much noise out there. I'm pretty hard on myself. I should probably let it go a little bit more, but I was trying to do the right things. I was still in the fiat mindset. I was trying to diversify within this new sector, this new exciting sector. I was trying to diversify. I was trying to stock pick. I was trying to not stock pick, coin pick, and figured out that now I can listen to the CEO, or I can listen to the CTO, and I would watch videos and videos of presentations by Dash, for example,
different white papers, and
yeah, all of that kind of stuff, and getting swept up on the idea that blockchain technology is the underlying invention here, and everything's going to go on the blockchain, and just be ahead of the sector that moves there first. And a lot of shipping chat, right? You'd have seen this, I'm sure, like decentralized ledger technology and all of that kind of crap. Bananas on the blockchain. I remember reading in The Economist, I think.
Yeah, logistics stuff. Yeah.
Logistics, right? Yeah. So, okay, so imagine you've got a boat leaving port in Australia, and that's got to get to Brazil, and it's got to pass through certain ports along the way. And just imagine if the cargo can go on the blockchain, and that's exactly what it is. And then when it gets to the next port, that gets updated, and then that gets absolutely confirmed again that all the cargo is still there, and there's been nothing lost at sea, and there's been no thievery or anything like that, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is going to revolutionize the way that we do business on a global scale. Supply chains are going to be the tightest they've ever been, and blah, blah, blah. So I was always looking for the next best thing. Over time, that's all gone away, man. Like, there's only one game in town. So how do you outpace Bitcoin? Well, the only way you outpace Bitcoin is if you're still accounting in US dollars in the back of your mind. Many of us don't do that anymore, right? Many of us are like, well, that's always going to go up anyway, and I don't want to sell the Bitcoin back out for worthless pieces of paper. So like that's one mindset. Another mindset is, do we buy the companies that are now investing into Bitcoin and following the MicroStrategy play, and get exposure to all of that upside in the stock market? Which, if you understand that they're going to print a shit ton more money, and you understand that means the stock markets are going to go up, and you understand that any company with a shit ton of Bitcoin on their balance sheet is going to start posting incredible profits over the next year because the accounting rules have changed, then yeah, you're going to get enticed into honing into some of those companies. How that plays out, I can't tell you, but it's not buying and holding Bitcoin. That it's incomparable. There's nothing else that, not even another coin, right? That people can say, oh, well, I'll just buy and hold XRP or Ethereum on my cold storage wallet and whatever else. But no, they are completely different things. You may as well just be buying a stock. It's completely centrally controlled. So yeah, it's very, So you you said earlier it was through doing the podcast that helped you build conviction that has made you do some probably what other people would look upon as very risky investments. Maybe you've sold out of other long-term investments. Maybe you've sold property, whatever it is that you've done. Other people are going to look at you like you're freaking crazy because they've not gone through that. They've not gone through the learning journey yet and found the conviction. Both you and I have the conviction. And it's very, very difficult when you have that conviction to talk about or recommend anything else. And when you've got newbies coming to you and asking you for advice, they're like, oh, no, I don't want to invest in Bitcoin. I just want to invest in the stock market. You're like, well, why? What's stopping you? Oh, this, that, and the other thing, all the usual excuses. So to that person, I would say, well, then are you at least investing in the companies in the stock market that are building their business on, a Bitcoin balance sheet? And then they look at you like you're crazy again. You're like, okay, so how are you going to get to that level of conviction? Because if you don't get to that level of conviction, you're going to sell your Bitcoin. And you're going to sell if the price rockets to $150,000, you're going to sell because you don't have the conviction that's going to $1 million. If it goes down to $50,000, you're going to sell because you don't have the conviction that it's not going to zero. So you're going to get caught on either side of that scale. So without the conviction, without the diamond hands, you're going to be relieved of your Bitcoin. And I think over the next 18 months, we're going to see wild swings. We now have 11 ETFs in the US alone with huge interest in the dollar price of Bitcoin. We now have a whole government in the US with huge interest on the dollar price of Bitcoin. We have a handful of US listed publicly traded companies with huge interest on the dollar price of Bitcoin. And they have the power of the narrative because they can write the headlines and move the price, which we saw Trump do by announcing on a Sunday some Bitcoin news. And this has huge ramifications through it because we've just got like Wall Street now and Wall Street equivalents around the world entering into this space, and they're all going to have huge interest on the dollar price of Bitcoin. So my message is you better build your conviction and you better build it quick. Otherwise, you're going to be shaken out. You're going to be shaken out. And who's going to hoover that Bitcoin up? Because as soon as you sell that onto an exchange, it's going to get hoovered up by an ETF or a publicly listed company or a government that is buying it for their reserves. So think about that.
It's a fascinating time to be watching, isn't it? I think what I'm kind of trying to feel out is, I love the question, ask a man what he owns, not what he thinks. And if I reflect on myself, the only thing I've invested in that isn't Bitcoin and self-custody in like literally years is myself, whether that's in personal development coaching or something I want to build, like my podcast, or B, a very small percentage allocation to a speculative equity investment, a company called Matador, which is listed in Canada, which Mark Moss introduced me to. And so far it's been hammered in the penny stocks market, and you can buy it at half the price I paid. So that's hardly a good investment today. I did it to buy and hold for a long time, but the thing I'm trying to feel through, I guess, is like absolutely like figure out Bitcoin first. If you haven't got as much as possible of your net wealth in Bitcoin self-custody, ask yourself why, and keep asking that until you have a good answer. And generally speaking, the more you know, the more you buy. Or where your mind goes, your money follows. And I have not seen a single person who's done the opposite to that. I'd be happy to be proven wrong because I'm constantly looking for reasons why I might be wrong. Find me someone that hasn't gone down that rabbit hole. But maybe, just maybe, if you're sitting on a 4 or 5x return, 5%, do you want to move that into something different? What vehicle might that look like? I don't know. Do you take more risk and go and do, you mentioned Jeff a few times, ego death would be a riskier opportunity, shall we say, and reallocate into some kind of VC style fund to buy equity in early stage companies. That's something that resonates very strongly with me. I'd love to be involved in doing that, I think. But I'm still unclear as to why that beats Bitcoin and self-custody. Just to throw that out there, I'm happy to try. And I do think it's important for us as Bitcoiners to just not hodl everything forever. We have to take some risk. But I don't quite know how and in what way yet. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I think the podcast will...
Right. Yeah. You said the key word there, yet.
Yeah, well, I'm still working on it essentially as a thesis. It's where do I personally fit in? And one idea I'm really, really strong on is it's a very fiat thing, this. So it's about evolving. Actually, great example. So what Andre and Gigi are doing with the sovereign engineering cohort is an absolutely excellent example of what I was thinking about. But I went through some fiat-funded startup accelerator programs and basically building companies. And they were trying to get you to shoot for the stars, right? We want you to build the next Google. We're going to put 100 grand in now. We're going to get 10% of your company, blah, blah, blah. What does that look like on a Bitcoin standard? And I think it involves a lot of different things, such as vibration, like raising people's frequency, getting them to actually build things that they want to build, and then helping them with capital. But again, I haven't figured that out yet. So yeah, if any opportunities come up, do let me know, because I'm interested to look at them. And you've obviously been in the space for some time now, so you would have seen plenty of different things proposed, I'm sure.
Yes, and you have the fund, like the Lightning Ventures Fund and the Thunder Fund now that they've launched. You have Geyser, which have all of the separate. I love Geyser because of the pleb level stuff. You can send $50 across to someone that's trying to build out a project on Geyser, and that makes a big difference to somebody. But then also, I urge you to think about, rather than investing, hard-earned Bitcoin into a startup or a company that's resonating with you, offer your time, because they need the advice. And I've sat on the board at Relay, who are they're like a swan here in Europe. So you can download the app and buy Bitcoin through them, and it's been great watching them grow and just being at the end of the phone if they were needed something. Same with Orange Pill app. Matteo started that a couple of years ago, currently looking for investment because they want to grow out the next stage. And I sat on that board with Canute, Nico from Consensus, Natalie, Brian DeMint, who wrote Parallel. And we just meet once a month and we just shoot the shit and what's the big ideas? What can we do now? How can we, what's the next UX step? They've just created the wallet. So now people are zapping each other around in the app, which is great. One cool thing is geo-zapping. So I geo-zapped Sydney the other day because I knew Bitcoin Alive was going on in Sydney. Yeah, so cool. I just opened the app, opened my wallet, typed in Sydney. There's 17 people listed on the app.
No way.
Just sent 21 saps immediately to everybody.
Cool.
With 21 sats, excuse me, with the message, hope you guys are enjoying the conference. Look after my boy Canute or something like that. So these are cool things, but that's one way that people can like yourself that are looking to add value to the space can lean in and help. Because why are you investing in it? Are you investing in it because you want to try and make more Bitcoin on the other side, or you want what they are building and you just want to be a part of the whole experience?
That needs to be answered. Absolutely. And it's reminding me of an article that I've referenced recently on this pod. A guy called Daniel Kravitz, I think that's how you say his name, wrote it literally 10 years ago. And it essentially says anything that isn't buying and holding Bitcoin in self-custody, should be looked at as something altruistic. So like a philanthropic donation to something rather than, VC style investment. Because the ability for Bitcoin to outpace absolutely everything else in the market is so high, potentially, that it's a fool's game trying to beat it. So don't even bother. And anything that you don't buy that vehicle with, i.e. Bitcoin and self-custody, then consider it like a donation to something and don't ever expect to see it come back. Again, this is a work in progress. It's something I'm trying to figure through, because what resonated very strongly recently was the idea of putting Bitcoin into someone else's fund, so a Bitcoin denominated fund. So rather than saying, give me 250,000 US minimum ticket, which is often the threshold, or 100,000 pounds or something. So, okay, well, how are they going to outpace Bitcoin? What will Bitcoin be in 10 years' time? Like that, I mean, it's anyone's guess, right? Whereas if I give you one Bitcoin, it's very clear. You give me back one Bitcoin plus whatever the carry is. So I think that's an easier sell to a Bitcoin holder. But then how you actually structure that, and I mean, that's the job of the capital allocator, essentially, is to figure that out. It's like, okay, how are you going to do it? And then what companies or project, I don't even know. I don't know how anyone's actually going to achieve that. I don't know. So I'll have to keep digging.